And he said, what are you guys talking about? And you don't even see that somebody has come to join you. And then they look at him strangely. He said, are you a stranger in Israel? Don't you have Twitter? Are you not on WhatsApp? You don't have Telegram? He said, no. You mean you don't have Facebook account? The news that is trending now on social media, and he said, what? He said, seriously? You mean? He said, I don't know. He said, it's about Jesus. And so it's very strange. They were talking about Jesus to Jesus. They thought they knew Jesus, and yet he was standing beside them. He was asking them questions about himself, and they didn't know that he was the one. So I know that there are many of us who have stayed so long in the church and will believe we know Jesus. However, if we see him, we may not recognize him. So many people, many times, have mistaken him for somebody else. Sometimes, because he chose to be very simple in appearance, you may even think it couldn't be the Jesus that you have been hearing about. Mary Magdalene met him. She was crying, and she's been there for hours, crying to see Jesus. And Jesus decided to reveal himself unto her. And the Lord just came and said, woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? And she told the man, I am looking for my Lord. And if you are Mr. Gardner, I'll be from here. Just show me, I will go and carry him myself. You can imagine, she was calling Jesus. And so she means, so it is possible that you have met him and you have mistaken him for somebody else, and you are still mistaking him for somebody else. How much you mistook him for somebody else may not be my problem, but that in this meeting you may see him. I remember a man in Mark chapter 5. As Jesus came out of the boat, he was the first to come to welcome Jesus. And you know, if the president is coming to a location, for instance, if the president of our nation is coming to Ogun or at the entrance of the state capital to receive him. So he was a person who came to receive Jesus as though he was the governor of that region. As Jesus came out of the boat, he fell down before the Lord and worshipped him. Thou Son of God. He recognized Jesus and he didn't make mistake. But I was shocked at what he said. Say, why have you come to torment me? My time is not yet. And I felt the fact that he worshiped Jesus, the fact that he recognized Jesus, should also make him to recognize the ministry of Jesus. That is not giving the ministry of torment, but the ministry of comfort. So the fact that a person is in the choir and he sings beautifully, or she sings beautifully, or that he could lead a praise worship session and the whole place will be electrified, is not in any way showing that he understands who Jesus is. I am coming from this background this morning because it is very important for me first to let you know that many times we assume we know something until we are put on the spot to check if truly you know. If I ask you, what is the meaning of the word about? You may never believe that as simple as the word about is, you may not know the meaning. Think about it. Do you know the meaning? And you use it very freely. About, I'm about to get there. I'm about to come. It's about Jesus. You may not know you don't know the meaning until you stop to check. So this morning, is it still morning? Yes, morning. We are going to attempt to find Jesus. And I do not mean that he's lost. Of course, he might be lost or hidden to some people. I am going to read the main text for this meeting, but I won't start from there, but I will use it as a crescent to enter into where we're going to start from. So let me request that you open your Bibles to the book of Hebrews, chapter number 2. And I'm going to read verses 8 and 9. Are you there? All right. I'll be reading the Old King James Version. Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him, but we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. May the Lord bless this word in our hearts in the name of Jesus. I wish I will be able to explain this to you this morning. I wish the Lord will be gracious to us in opening his mind wide unto us, in showing to us Jesus. The first question that rose from my heart when I read this passage, especially verses 8 and 9, is the description that it came out of the description that the Bible gave of the man that God created. And that God made man a little lower than the angels and crowned him with glory and honor. That started from Psalm 8. And God, because of his love for man, put all things under the feet of the man he made. And as the writer of the book of Hebrews was looking at that, suddenly he came to a point and he said, but now we see not yet all things put under the man. I am desiring this morning that God will help both of us to be very, very factual and truthful to one another. That when God created man, he created him in his own image. It's not a news. But I will need to re-emphasize that. I will need to reintroduce that to you, that you may understand the angle from which this writer was coming, that you may understand why Jesus was presented as one that is exempted, the only exception, and because of that exception, the only person for us to see in this meeting. When the Bible opened in Genesis chapter 1, the very first verse says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Full stop. And then verse 2 says, and the earth was without form and void. I have a challenge in my heart. In Nigeria, for instance, there are a lot of brands of vehicles, and the most prominent ones, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, maybe a little bit of Volkswagen, and now Kia is also coming up, and I think it's caring enough to be taken serious. However, the top on the list of the best brand, permits me, Nigeria context, is Toyota, even though I know that Toyota is overpriced. Nigerians have come to that point where we have agreed, even though it is not written anywhere, that if it is Toyota, it's a good car. Either it is Corolla or Camry or Verso or Highlander or whichever one. So you see all kinds on our roads. If you now buy one and it's not giving you service, you are likely going to wonder if it is Toyota. Because you know that in Nigeria, you could see a vehicle and it is Ford, and the engine inside could be Toyota. I hope you know that they do that in Nigeria. In fact, I saw wonder at Ladipo Market a couple of months ago. I went to buy spare parts for my car, and where I parked, I saw a car and they were working on it. I've been looking at them for a few minutes. At a point, I got out of my car and I went to them. I said, what are you doing to this car? Because I saw that they would take saw blades and cut a place in front and cut another place. I said, what are you doing to this car? It was a Prado Jeep, 2000 and I think 2003 model. They said we want to rebrand it. To what? To 2017 model. And in less than 4 hours, I couldn't recognize the same car anymore. Right before my eyes. Nigerians are smart. Kai. I never knew that there are vehicles that are made in Lajinpo until that day. So you could be driving a 2017 model as it were, and actually you are simply driving a 2003 model. They just change the bumper, change the hood, change the doors. I said, what about the engine? He said, it's the same engine. They just change the headlamps and the tail lights, and it's just looking cute. 4 hours. I said, how much will it cost me to do this? He said, if you give us 2.3 million, we'll change it. Leave it is not the subject for today. What brought me that far is because the same person that made the heavens made the earth. So I expect that if God made the heavens and is the same person who made the earth, I expect that the kind of excellent work that is seen in heaven should be seen on earth, since the two were made by the same person. But look at that Bible, Genesis chapter 1. I am taking a journey. I told you that I'll just pick those 2 verses as a crescent to enter into the lane that I want to travel with today. I'll read verses 1 and 2. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Full stop. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Now for me, I am not thinking that God will have created the earth and be formless. If the Bible says, and the heaven and the earth were formless, that would have been all right for me. But for the earth to be without form, it's a challenge. And for the earth to be said to be void, the word void means empty. It's also a challenge. If the earth is empty and heaven is not empty, then there's a problem somewhere. If the earth is without form and the heaven is not without form, I think there's a problem. Why will God create the heavens and give it a form and create the earth without form? Why will God create the heavens and fill it up and create the earth and leave it void, empty space? Please listen. I think, permit my thinking, I think like a child. I am thinking. 1, why should the Bible say the earth is empty when there was deep? Deep means water. If you say something is empty, it means there is nothing there. Why would the Bible say the earth is empty when there was darkness that was upon the face of the deep? Is darkness not something? Is the deep not something? These are questions that arise in my heart, and I want to find answers to those questions. I read in my Bible sometime, Peter and his colleagues, they went to fish and they toiled all night. And the Bible said they caught nothing. Is there anybody from coastal area, riverine area here, and you have experience in fishing? Do I have anybody like that here? Nobody. So you may not understand, but I will try and explain. I want to ask you, is it possible to throw nets inside a river and that net will not catch anything? Is it possible? Where do you belong? No or yes? Yes. You want to tell me how? You don't want to tell me. In this era, where you are going to find a lot of empty bottles of Coca-Cola, empty bottles of Fanta, empty bottles of Sprite, and all kinds of dirt on our river, is it possible for a man to throw nets into a river and he will not catch something? The other day I was reading the Bible, and Jesus was hungry and he saw a fig tree afar, and he got there thinking he will get fruit, and the Bible said, and he found nothing thereon. I said, no. You can't tell me you found nothing. What about the branches? What about the leaves? Are they not something? How do you say nothing? If the Bible says Peter caught nothing, I felt no, that's not the whole truth. And I'm not saying the Bible is lying, but that's not the whole truth. He must have caught something. Empty cans will be there. Grass will be there. All kinds of debris will be there. Used articles, spent articles will be there. Spent shoes, flip-flop that we call slippers, all manner of things, we'll find them on the sea, because Nigerians, I know it's where I live, in Ibadan, that once it is raining and there is erosion, people empty their trash can in the erosion. So you can't tell me that you throw nets into a river and you will catch nothing. But I think the Bible is also very correct in that everything Peter caught that was no fish was nothing. Everything on that tree that was no fruit that Jesus needed was not. So it is possible for you to be very, very busy, and things including very super GP, and yet God looks into your life and said this is an empty shell, because there is something God is looking for, and that's what we are pushing for this day. Before you stand before the Lord at the end of your journey, scans your life and he says there is nothing here, the Bible, and see what God could be looking for, or what God will like to see in our lives. But there is something I want to quickly establish so that I can move. So I noticed that there was a darkness that sat upon the deep, and I have read in my Bible that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. I know that darkness is the opposite of light, or darkness is the absence of light, whichever way you want to look at it. So I concluded in my heart that the emptiness and the formlessness that I noticed in verse 2 must have been the handiwork of the darkness that sat upon the earth. This darkness is not a solar darkness that set in at 6:30, 7 p.m. in the evening. This darkness is a person. This darkness is a personality. This darkness is a being that is ever opposed to God and everything God does. Anywhere he gains entrance, he makes sure that that place becomes formless and that place becomes empty. And once he does that, he sits atop as a mark of conquest and will be in charge of that place. When he gains entrance into a life, he renders that life formless and he ensures that that man becomes empty and emptied. Anywhere this darkness is given space to operate, his agenda has not changed up to now, is to ensure that the life where that chance is given is rendered formless and empty. But I hope you know that shapelessness is also a shape. I hope you know. Formlessness is also a form. I will come back there. So when the Lord was going to respond, he responded by saying in verse 3, and God said, let there be what? Be light. For me, the word there talks about a place. That's the way I think. I told you I think like a child. The word let means permit, allow. Let there, permit in that place light to be. And I ask where darkness is, there let light be. And I read the next statement. Me says, and there light was. So I am beginning to introduce you to the matter arising from Hebrews chapter 2. I realized that when that light came forth, that light did not take charge of a little part of where the darkness was sitting. The light covered everywhere the darkness covered before. There was no single space that light conceded unto darkness. It was a complete removal of darkness. Light took over completely. Every part of the earth where darkness held sway, light removed darkness and took charge of the place. Because when the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water, he covered the whole area and saw that there was no part that darkness left for light. And so when light came to take charge, there was no part also that light left for darkness. Sometimes I get worried when you come around and say, now I'm a child of God. Now I am born again. And I'm happy about it that you are born again. I'm happy that you are a Christian. However, you have simply reduced the bottle of beer you drink from 8 to 2. You have simply reduced your girlfriend from 6 to 1. You stop being an homosexual. You just switched to masturbation. Yes, you go to church, but the music you listen to is still the music of darkness. The way you dress is still the dressing of darkness. Some of the friends you keep, they are boys and girls of darkness. Even your language is still the language of darkness. That sets me worried. One day I was ministering in ABU Zaria in the chapel, and I was talking about Jesus and the church, and I came to a point I became confused. I needed inputs from the experts that were there, since I'm sure a lot of professors were there who could help me. Since the Bible called Jesus the head of the church, so I ask, does it happen at all in medical science that a woman will be giving birth to a child and the head of the baby will come out of the birth canal and the body will be stuck inside? And a professor, a woman, stood up and said, yes, it happens. I said, how? And she told me that if the shoulders of the baby is brother, and she called it shoulder dissocial or something. I've forgotten the name she mentioned many years ago now. I'm sure it should be about 10-15 years now, around the first or second time I went to ABU to minister. So I asked her, when it happens that way, what do you do, ma? He said, we do a destructive operation. I said, how do you mean? He said, we cut off the shoulder because we have to save the mother and bring the baby out dead and dismembered so that the mother could live. Oh God. That sets my mind thinking. I'll tell you some of my thoughts. Again, because my mind could just be running around looking for solution to issues. So I also wonder in my heart, is it possible anywhere that a woman will give birth to a child by installments? That today she gives birth to the head, and then we ask her to go home and come back next week to give birth to the neck, and then we suture the neck and the head together and say go back, and then she comes back again and gives birth to the part of the body, to the loins, and then we suture that to the head and the neck, and then she goes back and then she gives birth to the two legs, and then we suture it. Does it happen that way? So I am wondering why you are getting born again gradually. is a strange occurrence in Christianity. Every birth is once. Every correct birth must be once, and every part of the body must come out. If there is a part of your life that is still in the darkness, it means you are not born again at all. I don't understand being born again by installment. I don't understand why you will think that since you have your head there, you are counted in the church. Your head is in the church, but the entire body is in the world, and you think you are a Christian. You have shoulder dissociation. Only a destructive operation will settle the matter. One brother, his name is called Eutychus. I don't know what went wrong with Paul. That message was a very lengthy message, and Paul was just preaching, and he would not stop. And this boy just enjoyed the message so much that he was not feeling comfortable sitting on the pew. He went and sat in the window. The Bible was very careful to say he sat in the window and not on the window. And I'm wondering, what does it mean to sit? To sit in the window and to sit on the window. If he were to sit on the window, he would have sat down like this, facing a direction. That would have mean he's sitting on this window and he's facing us, or he's facing outside. But that man was very smart. He didn't sit on the window, he sat in the window. So he opened his thighs and tucked himself inside. One leg was inside the hall, the other leg was outside the hall. With one eye, he was looking at Paul. With the other eye, he was looking at the world. With one ear, he was hearing Paul. The second ear, he was listening to Davido. I'm sure his music is in your phone as you are sitting down here. That's your master. The person you could put inside your pocket is the one you listen to. That's the one that controls your life. Is there anything wrong in using devices? No. God gave 2 iPads to Moses one day, 2 tablets one day. He was the first. He was the first to use tablets. But the Bible remarked that both sides of these 2 tablets were God's handwriting. From the bottom, from the top to the bottom, from the front page to the back page of the 2 tablets, what you are going to see is God's word and God's handwriting. But I'm surprised that your own tablet is a combination of light and darkness. The handwriting of the devil and the handwriting, little handwriting of God. It is not in the design of God anywhere that both darkness and light will cohabit together. No. Once light sets in, darkness recedes. And if it is a correct light, no darkness can resist it. Brother, how do you do it that you are combining these 2 personalities together? in your own life. Sister, how do you manage that both darkness and light, permit me, operates alongside? They're just walking hand in hand in your own life. But I'm not where I'm going yet. This is just a way for me to enter. When God said, let there be light, where darkness was before, where darkness was dominant before, where darkness held sway before, light took over, leaving no part for darkness to handle anymore. And God saw the light, and it was good. Now, I want to come to what brought me there. When God finished, because you know, it will be needless for God to start to fill the earth and to put the earth in shape when darkness is still sitting upon the face of the deep. Whatever investment God makes into that earth will still fall into the hand of darkness. Giving the earth shape, filling the earth with beautiful things is not what the earth needed at that time. What the earth needed was light. And I'm thinking also that what you need in this meeting is not first and foremost a miracle of your healing, even though that will happen. I am thinking that the first thing is not this demonic operation in your life to be settled. I am not thinking that the first thing is about this asthma that has come to rattle you over the years. I am not thinking that this peptic ulcer is the number one problem we should look at. I am thinking that those things are operating freely in your life because darkness is in place. So the first thing that we must deal with is that darkness, and the only thing that can handle darkness is light. Am I communicating? Right. So when God finished everything he needed to do, he knew that if he should go back to heaven, it will mean the withdrawal of light from the earth, and that will be a natural introduction of the darkness by default. So God decided to perpetuate that light on earth, and so he designed a house for that light to dwell. So he said, let us make man. The same way, let there be light. Permit that man should be made in our image, after our likeness. And I told you, 1 John 1:5 says, God is light. So let us make man as light, so that he can be in charge of all things. And that was what informed the making of the first man. God had it in mind that everything will be under the control of that man. That man will be a full representation of the council of heaven here on earth. God had it in mind that that man will be in charge of everything he had made, and he empowered him so to do, and he left. I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know what went wrong. And not that I really don't know anything about it. But I just want to leave it. Just for me to save a little time. And I can pursue this course with a difficult thing for man to do. All that God wanted him to do was to shine. All that light needs to do to keep darkness at bay is simply to shine. I am really desiring that I could pause and do some applications, but I still have to run. However, again, I am wondering that if Christians are as much as we claim to be in Nigeria, I am still wondering why darkness is still holding sway in this country. I was asking the brethren some time ago. It's a parable of a father who has a son. And he bought some fish. Or if you like, holy fishes. I think the two are correct. And then ask him, can you please apply salt to this fish, since we don't have refrigerator, so that this fish will not get spoiled? I am going on a journey.